I present Grom's Glorious Bastards, led by none other than Grom the Paunch, the legendary character, with Nibit, his sidekick battle standard bearer. Nibit is carrying the banner of arcane warding, and Grom the Paunch has the axe of Grom, of course, a potion of healing, and a Jade amulet. We have Smuggit, the level 4 Goblin Shaman Lord, atop his monstrous spider Nobba, with his skull staffs, crimson amulet, and 1 Dispel scroll. And Mork's Grinnerz, which are 24 Orc Big Uns with light armor shields and spears, holding the Phalanx Banner, which gives them an extra rank of attack. And they are led by Nog the Boss, with his Blade of Leaping Copper. Accompanying the Orcs and Goblins are Snog the Giant, the Slimies, which are 3 River Trolls, da Dongers, which are 4 Snotling Bases, and da Flapper, which is the Doom Diver. Grom the Paunch this time was travelling on the road to Realm's Edge Keep. This is Max's studio with his wonderful table and terrain, so thank you Max for hosting Grom and his Glorious Bastards. Now let's take a look at Max's beautifully painted Beastman army, and let's have a look at the units that he's taking today in our game. The large horned ones, 3 Minotaurs with double-handed weapons, and the Pale Scavengers, which are 4 Chaos Trolls. We now have 14 Pestigors, the Plague marked, with double-handed weapons and the Flaming Standard. The Master Shaman, Festering Mange, the Vile Toadcaller, leads the herd with his Marker Nurgle and 2 Dispel scrolls. And flanking them we have 18 Gors, the Filth Ridden, with their additional hand weapons, led by their Beast Lord, which is Gore with a Stone Hoof, with his Marker Chaos, giving him +1 leadership, his Chaos Rune Sword, Adamant Armor, and Crimson Amulet, and also Beastbringer the Foul, the BSB, with his Marker Nurgle, Heavy Armor, and the Banner of the Beast, giving them +1 strength. Finally, Packmaster Offal the Swift, leading his 5 Hounds of Chaos, the Loping Moors. And last but not least, the Tramplers and Thrust Beastman Chariot. As per the rules for Warhammer Renaissance, we generated a scenario for today's game, which is Take the Village, including 2 buildings. One is a tower, one is a house, with some wall sections there to provide defense cover for infantry leading up to the houses. If one of today's generals has a scoring unit either occupying one of the buildings or within 2 inches of one of the structures without being contested by one of the enemy units, they get to claim 750 victory points for today's game. We roll for sides after generating other terrain features like hills and forests, and Max won the roll-off, claiming that side of the table, and we secretly wrote down our positions of our units on a piece of paper to give this nice fog of war effect, which I love about Warhammer Renaissance, not knowing exactly where the units be placed on either side of the table until both maps are revealed, and then we could place our units respectively. Before deployment we both shuffled our spell decks and dealt our respective spells. We had Festering Mange taking Nurgle magic for the very first time today, and of course Smuggit taking War magic. With a beautiful battlefield and 2 beautifully plated armies already set and poised to begin, let's roll for initiative to see who will start the first turn of the game. Saying a small prayer to Gork as I roll that dice, but a 1, alas, and 3 for Max's Beastman. The hairy armpitted, dung-flinging filth-ridden make their advances across the table towards the village. And alongside them, the plague-marked Pestigors, led by their champion Scab Squeezer, and of course, their Shaman Festering Mange. And the Beastman Chariot making its way along the flank there, trampling around the fence line. The Chaos Hounds, the Loping Moors, sprang into action and loped down the right-hand side of the flank there. Passing his stupidity test, the Pale Scavengers and the large Horned ones progressed also down the right-hand side of the flank, with the Pale Scavengers coming up to the fence line in order to breach it and run over it next turn. With no shooting or hand-to-hand combat, we'll straight into the magic phase. A total of 9 Winter Magic cards were generated, and Rancid Visitation was the spell that first cast, and the Festering Mange had its sights on the Goblin Spearman. My level 4 Goblin Mage, Smuggit, was going to have none of that and decided to play Destroy Spell, but rolled a 1 and didn't dispel the spell after all. Rancid Visitation by name and nature causes 2d6 strength 4 hits on the enemy unit. Max was fortunate to roll a 9 on 2d6 and caused 3 wounds in the process. Smuggit, sort of restrained with line of sight and range issues, decided to cast Here We Go on the Big Uns using 2 power, and Max was kind enough to let me have that one. So it basically gave them +1 toughness and always allowed them to strike first until the next magic phase. Grom the Paunch wasn't able to quell all of the animosity on the Goblin side, with the Big Uns rolling a 1 and failing and squabbling. I was fortunate, however, to pass my stupidity test for the Trolls, and they made it up to the wall edge. Snog the Giant, Gork's Toof Goblins, Grom the Paunch, made their advancements across the battlefield to close down towards the enemy. Deflapper, our little Goblin Doom Diver, overreached his guess range and unable to steer backwards as he rolled a hit, landing the template not enough to wound any of the Minotaurs. Now onto the magic phase. Rolling an 8 for the Winds of Magic, Smuggit opened up his account with a cunning plan of using Hand of Gork upon the squabbling Big Un orcs, but Max dispelled it on a 5. The Festering Mange cast Cloud of Flies this time upon the Gork's Toof, the Goblin Spearman unit, and I replied with a Mental Duel, effectively dispelling it on a 5. And then it was time for both Shamans to embrace in a Mental Duel. Max thought he had the upper hand rolling a 6, but I also rolled a 6, and with my higher level inflicting a wound upon the Beastman Shaman. Hooray! Praise Gork. The Beastman turn 2 started off with a compulsory phase testing for stupidity for the Pal Scavengers, and luckily the Gore Witherer Stonehoof was in range to use his leadership and passed on a 4. As Gore Witherer Stonehoof was distracted commanding the Trolls, the Pestigores did the worst thing ever. They started squabbling amongst themselves, leaving the Beast Lord stranded for the turn. The wheels were turning on the Tramplers and thrust Beastman Chariot as it slowly made its way along the flank. The Gork's Toof Goblin Spearman could smell something rotten, and sure enough, it was the Festering Mange with the filth-ridden gauze. The Trolls, scratching their head for a bit, looked at the wall to see how they're going to cross it, but luckily enough, they managed to bound over the wall and reach safety across the other side. The Loping Moors advanced on the flank, allowing the large Horn-1 Minotaurs to march and wheel so they'll be in a better position to make any potential charges in their next turn. Again, as there was no shooting or hand-to-hand combat phase to deal with, we went straight into the magic phase. Max rolled a big 12 for this one. Lost under the allure of chaos, Max started cackling and jeering with the forces of chaos with their potential magical devastation this turn, starting off his account with Steam of Corruption against the Gork's Toof Goblin Spearman. The Steam of Corruption template was placed down, covering 4 of the hapless goblins, having to roll under their initiative on a d6 to survive, but alas, 4 fell under the Steam of Corruption. Mental energies from Gork and Mork told me to cast Here We Go again on my Orc Big Uns, but I was faced with a rebound in response, and resulting in a 6, dispelling the spell and then being able to cast another spell at the same power level. So Rancid Visitation was again visiting me. I decided to use the only Dispel card that I got dealt that turn, failing on a 3, decided to use my one and only Dispel scroll. It was Max's turn to cast again, so he cast Cloud of Flies upon the Gork's Toof Goblin Regiment. There's no way I could stop it, so it was cast and they couldn't move next turn. Coming back to my turn again, I cast a Hand of Gork, but the Festering Mange again dispelling and thwarting my plans. Praise Gork, as he did leave me a little gift to retain on my table edge for the next magic phase. With Grom the Paunch filling the War this turn, he decided to declare a charge against the Minotaurs. The Giant declared a charge against the Trolls. The Big Uns passed the animosity test, but the Goblins didn't. But it doesn't matter because they were under the spell of the Cloud of Flies. The Trolls found their wits rolling under Grom's leadership, and then Grom passed his fear check against the Minotaurs. Upon measuring, the giant was within charge range of the Trolls, so they had to make a leadership test, which they did with flying colours rolling double ones, and the terror-causing giant was able to charge in. The Dongers, the 4 Slotling bases, sacrificed themselves to protect the flank of their big cousins, the Big Uns. Speaking of which, Mork's Grinnerz made a march move to close the distance between themselves and their enemies. Smuggit let the Trolls, which were having a bit of a think about how to get over that wall, and led them safely across there to protect the flank. Deflapper wasn't having the best of days, as the Goblin Doomdiver again overestimated the guess range, over exceeding the distance needed to hit the Gors. After shooting, it was time for hand-to-hand combat, and this time I'm going to resolve how Grom did in his impact hits with the Chariot. He rolled a 5, which was causing 7 strength 7 impact hits. And for the damage, well, it was evident to see there weren't going to be many Minotaurs left after this brutal charge in by Grom's heavy Chariot. Praise Gork! If that wasn't a swift kick to the ghoulies for the Great Hall ones, Grom came in with his Grom's axe and started carving away at the remaining Minotaur in front of him with Niblet and the wolves, resulting in all of them being vanquished. And for the giant, the plan was simple: yell and brawl, and send these trolls scrambling back over that fence, back to where they came from. All they needed to do was survive the vomit attack from the trolls. And praise to Gork, as they only suffered 1 wound. Then, failing their leadership test, and rolling double ones, the giant came in to clean them up and send them packing. And rolling an 8 for the winds of magic, it was time for Gork to do his wonders. Looking for movement advantage, I cast the transportation spell, the Hand of Gork, upon my Big Uns, but then was thwarted again with another spell. Rancid visitations were visiting me again with 2 power, cast by the mad cackling Shaman, and I managed to dispel it, rolling a 6. Smuggit, feeling very smug and very confident, casting total power and decrunch with the green foot of Gork, targeting those filth-ridden Gors with their smelly breath and hairy armpits, thwarted once again by festering mange with his Dispel scroll. The Beastman turn started with the Pestigors getting control of themselves, allowing them to make a charge declaration against the River Trolls, and the Gors themselves charged the flank of the Gork's Toof regiment. Beast Lord Gore with a stone hoof passed a leadership test to be able to charge the fear-causing River Trolls. And the ricketing, creaking and clanking of the Thumpers and Thrust Chariot was making its way across the flank of the table. The Chaos Hounds then began to turn their sights on the Snotlings. With no shooting phase on the Beastman's side, the hand-to-hand combat phase could be initiated, with Scab Squeezer initiating a challenge against Zigy, the Goblin boss, accepting the challenge but then being cut down in the process, but sacrificing himself for the greater good of Gork's Toof regiment. Sons of Gork and Mork saw their fearless leader being cut down, and with 3 bad moons, inflicted 3 mortal wounds upon the Beastman unit. Praise Gork. The Pestigors with their double-handed weapons attacked last, causing another 3 wounds upon the Goblins. My prayers to Gork and Mork. We did lose the combat. The poor Gork's Toof, under the cloud of flies, were broken in hand-to-hand combat. I was hoping to roll high enough to get away from the Pestigors catching us, but they did catch us in the end, unfortunately, cutting us down with their double-handed axes and then opening up to the flank on the Big Uns. And now for the moment that Max has been waiting all game to see his Beast Lord. Gork with a stone hoof and his Chaos Rune Sword. Let's see how he's going to do.
Exactly through the first game. Yeah. Through the first game, freshly painted, never been on the board before. Yeah, picks up the axe out from the bottom of the hearthstone. This will do me, he says. The Chaos Demon is not quite in alignment with it.
Yeah. Better luck next time. With the Beast Lord fluffing all his rolls, it was up to the rest of the Gors to make up for the rest of the attacks that the Beast Lord wasn't going to dish out, inflicting 4 wounds on the River Trolls. With a high number of hits inflicted, only 1 wound was caused onto the Gors, and only 1 wound was regenerated from the Trolls, leaving us in a really precarious situation here. We'd actually lost the combat, and as a result, even with the battle standard reroll, we were fleeing, resulting in us being overrun, which was disastrous for me as I lost Smuggit, my 4th level Goblin Shaman, the Trolls, and then I got an overrun charge into the flank of my Big Uns. Being without a Shaman, it was time for Max to finish me off in the magic phase, rolling a 7 for the Winds of Magic. The magic phase this turn was quite brief, with Ransom Visitation being cast against the Doom Diver, resulting in 7 hits. And only 1 wound inflicted. Grom the Paunch, seeing the demise of the Trolls and fearing the demise also of the Orc Big Uns, turned his chariot around to face against the Beast Lord and the filthy ridden Gors, and the Giant doing the same. Da Flapper guessed his range right against the plague-marked Pestigors, but alas, he deviated so far that it was made to make no impact in this shooting phase. Lord Stonehoof issued a challenge, but was cut down before he could even reply with his Blade of Leaping Copper. The filth-ridden Gors, having the advantage, unleashed all hell with their additional hand weapons, being able to fight in 2 ranks and cause another 3 casualties to the Big Un unit. Big Un response was, well, you can see for yourself. I couldn't roll Snake Eyes for the combat result, so I had to flee, but managed to escape far enough for the Gors not to catch up with me, and not to make contact with Grom. The Shaman attempted to cast Cloud of Flies upon my Giant, but for measuring for range, it was only 18 inches away. I was thankful for Gork, as it was just out of range and saved my Giant from not being able to move in my next turn. Festering Mage, having all the control of the magic phase, cast Rancid Visitation upon my Big Un unit. I tried to use Rebound but rolled a 1 and failed. He scored 4 hits but failed to wound any of them. The Beastman turn started with the filth-ridden Gors having to take a terror test with the Giant, but passing. And having passed, the filth-ridden Gors then declared a charge against Grom, and also the Chaos Hounds declared a charge against the Snotlings. The Tramplers and Thrust Chariot is still making its way, traversing across the battlefield, and the Festering Mage and his Pestigors maneuvering around to the side of the wall. Gork and Mork shed a few tears as 2 Snotling bases were cut down mercilessly by the Chaos Hounds, with the 2 stands of the Dongers striking back but inflicting no wounds. Penultimate challenge taking place in the centre of the battlefield, with Gork with a stone hoof challenging Grom the Paunch, which he gleefully accepted. With the Chaos Rune Sword and Grom's axe clashing together in the centre of the tabletop, making a fantastic display of Hero Hammer, the Beast Lord inflicted 2 wounds on Grom, and Grom replied inflicting 1 wound on the Beast Lord. But of course it resulted in us losing the combat because of the sheer ranks and battle standard bearers involved.
So I beat you by
3, okay, so 9, so 8, 7, 6. Okay, 6, 7, 8, so we reroll again. Come on. Oh, yes, did it. Thank you.
Grom and Gillet were safe again, so we're on to the magic phase, rolling a 10 for the Winds of Magic. String Mage had it within his sights to stop the giant from charging next turn, casting a cloud of flies, but I did manage to dispel it. Praise Gork on a 6. A charging giant was going to upset this Beast Lord's day, but he passed on his terror test as he charged in, and the Orcs managed to fail their first rally roll, but with the battle standard with Nibit holding it high and proud, they saved and passed on a 6. De Flapper now being able to steer his way and find targets more accurately. I did roll a 6 on a deviation, but I did roll a 6 to steer back, but I didn't inflict any wounds on the Shaman, sadly, but I did kill one of the Beastigors. It's time for Snog, the beautiful giant, to shine as he's going to jump up and down. So to make a test, roll a 2, so we're safe. To jump up and down with glee, inflicting, wait for it, 7 hits, and all 7 wounds. Gork be praised. And the challenge between the Gore with a stone hoof and Grom was still ensuing. The Beast Lord inflicting 3 wounds on Grom, but Grom retaliating, inflicting some hits, but sadly no wounds. Gork was not with us at this time. Niblet and the Wolves also had a bit of a bite and chew and stab at the Beast Lord, but not inflicting any wounds to be noteworthy. It was time for these Pestigors to prove their worth to their Beast Lord, inflicting a number of hits and causing actual wound on the giant.
I'll do it this way. So that's because I'm losing, but I wounded you.
You wounded me, yep.
Banner. That is a battle standard, but you've also got a battle standard.
So the standards, battle standards cancel each other out.
Okay, so take those away.
So,
and I've got 2 ranks.
yep. Do you count ranks?
No, I
Because
don't.
you negate your ranks, yep. Finally, got your flank.
Okay, so the penalty becomes 5.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep, think so.
Okay, so I need 5. Nope.
Uh-oh.
Reroll. Battle standard error.
Uh-oh.
Oh!
Oh, you did it. The smile, the relief.
Well, the Beast Lord's Gore with a stone hoof managed to save his hairy hide and stay in the fight for the next battle for next turn. Now it's time to turn our attention back to the Snotlings and the Cow's Hounds. With all the biting, scratching and tearing away at the Snotlings, they inflicted no wounds. But to the Snotlings' surprise, and to Gork as well, and I'm sure to the actual wolves themselves, they killed one in reply, which is fantastic. Praise Gork. A total of 8 was rolled up for the Wings of Magic for this magic phase. The Shaman Festering Mage's magical prowess seemed to have no bounds, with total power, with another Rancid Visitation inflicting another 4 wounds. And with nothing to stop the Shaman, he cast Cloud of Flies upon the big ununit as well, stopping them from moving from next turn. And at the end of the magic phase, I had to pass a panic check for the Big Uns as it caused another 25% casualties, which they did. Shaman Festering Mage, realizing that the objective was unsecure, did a full pivot to move towards the objective and to try to snatch victory by the last turn. And that trampling chariot just kept on trampling. With the Beast Lord adamant on killing Grom the Paunch and swinging his Chaos Rune Sword around and inflicting a few wounds on me, I decided to take my Potion of Healing, which I just remembered to take. And here's my result.
Okay, I'll just roll it now. 1, okay, fuck up. Okay, so he's got 1 wound.
It's not a very strong potion.
With a Potion of Healing on healing up 1 wound on that D3 roll, I started swinging back with Grom with his Axe of Grom, inflicting 1 wound, and then giving the ultimate blow and carving him in two with a 6, inflicting 3 wounds and seeing the end of the Beast Lord. The remaining Gors, in contact with the giant, took out all their anger and fury upon him, but resulting in no wounds. In retaliation, Gorgeous Snog started jumping up and down again, not having to stop what he's doing, as he quite enjoys doing this, and kills another 7 beastmen. The filth-ridden Gors, having lost the combat, had to flee automatically, and both the giant and Grom took it upon themselves to run them down, and so they did, and overrunning them and destroying them completely. This caused a panic reaction to the Chaos Hounds. Much to the Snotlings' delight, the hounds turned tail and ran away. In the final stage of the turn, we rolled to magic, and resulting in 7 Winds of Magic cards. As the festering mage was out of line of sight and had no spells to cast, I successfully dispelled the cloud of flies on my Big Uns. And then we had Max roll for the possible 6th turn that would have won him the game to reach the objective, as he was just out of 2 inches from that building. I couldn't do much in my turn because all I could do was just turn to face and prepare to charge him in my potential 6th turn. So we called it there for the end of the day. We had a great time, and I really enjoyed being the guest this time at Max's wonderful studio here, and playing on his wonderful table and seeing his wonderful models, and just having a great game of Warhammer Renaissance. So thank you very much for watching this game and battle report today. And in closing, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Warhammer Renaissance group on Facebook, which has 5.8 thousand members now, that has been growing over the last 5 years, and you can find all the download materials for the rules and army books on their file section on Facebook. So thanks again for watching, guys, and watch out for more Renaissance content coming soon.